Hello, I'm Fay.
And I'm Becki. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about maximising your potential as a leader and living your best life personally and professionally.
So join us on the M53 for our weekly chats, full of insights and inspiration, and of course, a cuppa and a butty.
Fay, it's called a brew. Hello. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the big 3-0. Turning 30 and all those things that we should have done or should be doing when we get to be 30 years old.
Because let's face it, Becki, 30's old, isn't it? So we should have lived our life by then.
And we should have done it all, right? It should all be done by the time we're 30. I mean, at least that is what I told myself, Faye, before I turned 30. I know from discussions that you and I have had that went through your mind a lot as well, approaching the big 3-0. And when I look at the clients that I work with, you know, future and emerging leaders, a lot of them are still in their 20s. And 30 seems to loom ahead of them in a really quite ominous way. And so we thought we would just take a bit of time in this episode to look at what it's really like on the other side of 30.
Well, I wouldn't know, Becki. Of course I know, but let's not try to kid anybody. I do remember looming. I do remember 30 looming. I remember being very unhappy about the fact that I was going to be 30. Being in my 20s was amazing as far as I was concerned. And actually, yeah, it was a time when I was developing my career and developing my skills as well, because I've always been a learner. So I've always been on that learning journey. And I was doing this development. And actually, if you've listened to a previous podcast where we talked about comparisonitis, I was very much in that zone of being quite young in my organisation and looking at these people who got this career ahead of me, and I wanted to follow their path really to get to where they were. So I'd got this career, this journey mapped out really.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think that the first thing to say about being at the other side of the big 3-0 is that the world does not stop turning when you turn 30.
Yeah.
Nothing really changes.
No, it doesn't change. Actually, I loved my 30s.
I mean,
I loved my 30s.
Because you are now on the other side of 40.
Oh,
I am.
I
just had to get that in there.
Thanks.
But I am still in my 30s, and you know what? You're right. They're all right. They ain't that bad. And I think that what's the reason for sort of wanting to put this episode out is because it's a recurring theme that we see with our younger clients. It's something that we both went through, and I think it's something that's just really important to be discussed and to be knocked on the head, that there is no age when you should have done something by, and 30 definitely is not it.
Still a whippersnapper at 30.
I mean, you know, all being well, and I am no stranger to life being unfair and life ending far too soon, okay? So I'm not sat here with rose-tinted glasses thinking we all live forever. Of course, we don't all live forever. But all being well, we will get to a lovely, ripe old age. And 30 is a long way off from where we are going to end up. But there seems to be a lot of pressure on young people nowadays to have the job, have the career, start the family, buy the house, go travelling, start to climb the career ladder all before 30. What are you going to do with all the rest of the time that you've got if you've packed it all in before the bell has tolled on your 30th birthday? You have a whole life ahead of you, and there is a season for all things. There is a season for all things, and I think it's so important that we choose our season. And it is a choice, you know. Even if you are sat there now thinking, well, it's not really a choice. I'm 29. I'm single. I would love to be married and to start a family. It's not a choice that I have. Well, you can make choices in the situation that you are in now. And so if that is that you then start to climb the career ladder and you take your career more seriously, until you find yourself in that relationship, in that marriage, in that position where you're thinking about children, then that is the choice that you make. And similarly, if you decide that you have children earlier, you know, there's no right or wrong here. It's only what's about what's right and wrong for you in your life, not what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Becki, and I can hear that you feel really strongly about that. But yeah, no, it's true. I am on the other side of 40. I'm a few years into that other side of 40, to be fair. So yeah, it just sitting here listening to that, I think my clients tend to be around more around the age that I am. So yeah, sitting and listening to that, it does take me back. But I do remember myself thinking, you know, I've got to have this career mapped out. I've got to, have found the one. We've got to have decided what our life is going to look like together. And, you know, but my goodness me, as we both know that life changes on a day-to-day basis. We don't know what's around the corner. So I would say, gosh, go out and live your life, enjoy what you're doing, but, you know, make those choices, but take what comes as well. The good and the bad will come, and we have to take it all, I'm afraid, because that's life.
It is. And, you know, we are both great examples of how now, chances are you won't just have one career. You know, chances are you won't either finish school or finish uni, or, you know, whatever route it is that you choose to take. You go into your job and that's it. You're stuck there for the rest of your life. There is no reason that, you know, if you're sat there thinking, oh, I'm knocking on the door of 30, I should know what I want to do with my life by now. Get rid of that notion. Some of the most interesting people I know have changed their career in their 50s. Fantastic. Good on you. Yeah, when, you know, the phrase that I always use is, I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do when I'm a grown up.
I still say that too. And actually, you saying that, change it. I can't imagine thinking that I can't change my career. Of course you can change your career. Of course you can. And you're not, you know, if you're in that position where you are thinking about, do I do it? Do I retrain or don't I? Then I would urge you to take a big, deep look at that and think about all the reasons why you're thinking about changing career anyway, because it's clearly there as a thought in your head. You're wanting to do it for a reason. If age is putting you off, then we need to have a conversation, because there is no age reason why you can't change. There's nothing stopping us. We are in, I think as well for women particularly, we are in an age now where the world has opened up. The world is our oyster. Yes. It has opened up in terms of what we can do and I say as women, because I'm thinking of us with and I'm not saying that men don't have child caring roles and parent caring roles and all of this, but it does tend, I think you would agree, Becki, that the majority of that tends to land with women. We're the ones that give birth. We're the ones that take on that maternal nurturing of our children. And I know that there are men out there who do their fair share of the childcare, and they might take the paternity leave to do that as well. But I think, you know, I'm looking at my friendship group, and it was always the mums who did that. Technology and the age that we live in has enabled me to set up my own business. I actually had plans to go straight back to work after I'd had my baby, and I would take some time off on maternity leave. I was going to go straight back to work. I worked for an organisation who were fantastic with regard to flexible working. I know, yeah, I was really lucky. I worked from home anyway. My office was at home. I used to go into our main office, I don't know, twice a month, something like that. So I worked from home anyway. So the plan was for me, that they're bound to accept me on a 3-day a week. I might have to work some specific days that they want me to, but I could probably do 3 days a week, and I'd be based from home. And I was in my car traveling around, and it was fine. It would have worked quite well. Would have been great. But as it was, I was made redundant because our business was closed down. And the age that we are in now, the technical age, and the fact that we have so many opportunities available to us enabled me to set up my own business. And since I've done that, I have trained in all sorts of things. I've gained skills in all different areas. Gosh, maybe that's a podcast episode for another day. But I've really, really developed, and as business owners we do. But yeah, there is life after 30. Trust me, I'm testament to that. Take it from me.
Yeah, and and I'm right there with you. And I look back, and one of the things that I used to call a regret, I don't do regrets now. I've decided that's not a word that I want to live with, regrets. But one of the things that I look and think, I wish I'd done more of is traveling. I didn't travel.
Actually, me too.
I took on my career. And I was trying to take it on in this really male-oriented environment. And then in my late 20s, I started popping out sprogs. And so I never travel. But then I look now and think, well, but then that was a choice that I made. But equally, just because I didn't do it before I turned 30 doesn't mean that I can't do it. If I look now, by the time I'm 50, my kids will have left home. That's great. I can spend my retirement traveling the world instead then, because there's a season for all things. And so my season for travel will happen later in my life. And I'm really cool with that idea. I love the idea of being 50 and sailing around the world. I'm dead on board with that. And yet, when I was 29, I'm thinking, that's it, I'm going to be 30, and I have not travelled. And here I am, I've already got sproglet number 1. Sproglet. I never use that word, Faye. I call them my mini people. I don't know where sproglet came from.
I quite like sproglet, but I'm not keen on sprog.
Yeah,
sproglet is better.
Strange.
It makes them sound a bit like a muppet. Sproglet. When I think of Sprocket from, where was Sprocket from? Was that Fraggle Rock? I can't remember.
I don't know. But yeah, here I am, and I've got many people, and so that's it then. I'm never going to do it. And it's rubbish, okay? It really is rubbish.
Well, you're sitting there saying at 50, I don't mind being on a yacht sailing the world. I'm not far from 50. I'm nearer 50 than 40.
You are.
And the thought that at 50 I wouldn't be able to do that is terrible. I still feel, and we were chatting before we pressed record on this podcast, but Becki, I still feel 21. I do. And the thought, and actually my parents, when they retired, they bought a caravan, which they never thought they'd do, but they did. And they have turned into complete and utter caravan people. And you know what? I admire them so much because my mum tows the caravan. We have this thing where we look for women who tow the caravan because she's very proud of the fact that she tows the caravan and can manoeuvre it and do all the things. She made damn sure she was able to tow the caravan as well. And to be honest with you, there's no reason in the world why my mum wouldn't be able to tow a caravan. But she does. So she tows it. They take it abroad. They have toured Scotland. They've been anti-clockwise round it and then clockwise round it. And, they go places and they really delve into places, and they take the caravan to places where probably you shouldn't take a caravan. They don't worry about that, and they're in their late 70s now, and they still, they are adventurous souls.
Yeah.
They won't stop. They're in their late 70s. They will not stop until they are stopped. Trust me. And I love it. And, all power to them.
Yeah. What an inspiration. And
it is an inspiration, Becki. But to think that there are people who are worried about I get the worried about turning 30 thing, because it is another milestone. It is another decade. It is another age, but it's just only 30. And by all good grace, hopefully we will all get to it's it's not a given for all of us. I do understand, but hopefully we will get to live our years, and it's up to us to make those choices, to do what we can do within those years that we've got.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important, key takeaway. If you're sat here thinking, okay, well, great, but where do I start then with changing the way that I feel about 30? And I think for me, the first thing is to get rid of any notion that there is something that you should have done. I hate that word, should. Should is usually a social construct. It's something that we see around us, and therefore we think that it's something that we should be doing in our as well. Put your blinkers on. Stop looking at what everyone else around you is doing. Get rid of this idea of that there are things that you should have done, and instead spend some time thinking about, okay, what do I want to do? What are my seasons going to be? And make that choice.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you said, what do I want to do? And I was going to say, write down what you want to do. What do you want to do? What's that real big driver that you've got? And if you haven't got a big driver, well, those little drivers that you'd quite fancy, because they're your wants. What do you want to do? Go out and do it.
And then go out and do it. And do not be afraid of turning 30. We're on the other side, and it really ain't that bad. Not at all.
It's absolutely fine. I mean, I pull my grey hairs out. I'm not going grey. I pull them out.
Whereas I dye mine all the wacky colours under the sun. And that's the other thing. You can do that after 32. You can dye your hair all the fun colours. Get the tattoos. Get the piercings. Go on tour. Do whatever you want. It doesn't stop when you turn 30.
And do you know what? That's just brought back a little memory that we'll end on, if you like. I remember being at work, and I really wanted at the time, I must have been about 22, and I wanted my nose pierced. I really wanted my nose pierced. And I remember one of our senior managers saying, if you had your nose pierced, you'd be out that door faster than whatever. And I'm not going to have my nose pierced now, to be fair. I don't have that longing for it anymore. But I did then, and I should have just done it. I should have done what I wanted. It wasn't going to sack me because I had my nose pierced. It was just what he thought about nose piercings.
And the world has changed. Hopefully it has moved on. Maybe that'd be another episode, another podcast episode. Has the world actually moved on from changed? That? But do not be afraid of 30. Embrace 30. Make your choices, because they are what you want to do.
Super. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you for listening to Meet Me on the M53. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becky at questforest.co.uk and Fay at fayblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and thank you to Wahhoo Media for our production. We'll see you next time on the M53.
Safe travels.